The transport vessel shuddered as magnetic clamps locked onto its hull. Red emergency lights painted the corridors in blood-colored streaks while the crew scrambled to reach the safe room. Amy pressed herself deeper into the gap between cargo containers, making her small body even tinier. Her stuffed rabbit clutched tight against her chest as boots thundered somewhere above her hiding spot. Metal screamed as the pirates forced their way through the outer airlock. The sound made Amy want to cry, but she bit her lip hard enough to taste copper. Mama always said to stay quiet during drills. This wasn't a drill, but the rules still applied. Heavy footsteps grew louder, different from human steps. These had an odd rhythm, like someone walking on springs. Amy squeezed her eyes shut and thought about her bedroom back on Earth. The blue walls with stars painted on them. Her collection of rocks from a beach. Anything but the sounds of shouting and weapons fire echoing through the ship. The cargo bay doors burst open with a hiss of hydraulics. "Search everything," a voice growled in heavily accented standard. "Cargo manifest says medical supplies. Worth good credits on black market." Amy tried to stop breathing. Maybe they would just take the boxes and leave. Maybe they wouldn't look behind the big containers where the crew sometimes stored personal items during long voyages. A shadow fell across her hiding spot. Well. The voice came from directly above her. "What do we have here?" A massive hand reached down and grabbed the container, shoving it aside like it weighed nothing. Amy looked up and forgot how to breathe entirely. The creature looming over her stood at least 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in dark scales that shifted between deep purple and black. 3 arms extended from its torso, each ending in hands tipped with curved claws. But the face was worst of all. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils sat above a mouth full of too many teeth, all of them sharp and pointing inward like a shark's. Captain Rask smiled down at the trembling child. He had raided hundreds of vessels in his career as a Kravith pirate lord. Most species understood what that smile meant. It was the expression his kind wore before the hunt, before the kill. A promise of violence wrapped in false friendliness. The little human girl stared up at him with huge brown eyes swimming in tears. Her whole body shook like a leaf in a storm. The fear smell rolling off her was intoxicating to his predator's senses. "Don't cry, small human," Rask said, crouching down to her level. His crew gathered behind him, weapons ready but lowered. They knew better than to interrupt when their captain found entertainment. "We not hurt you." "Maybe." He reached out with one clawed hand, moving slowly like someone approaching a frightened animal. The girl pressed harder against the wall, her breathing coming in short gasps. A whimper escaped her throat. "What is your name?" Rask asked, his smile widening to show more teeth. "You are very young to be on transport ship. Where's your family?" Amy couldn't form words. She had seen pictures of aliens before, but nothing prepared her for seeing a real predator species up close. Every instinct in her body screamed danger. Her rabbit fell from her hands as she tried to make herself smaller. "Look how scared." One of the crew members chittered behind Rask. "Humans are such weak prey. No wonder they need so many rules to protect them." Rask stood slowly, enjoying the way the child's eyes tracked his movements. "Your crew abandoned you, little one. Left you here alone with monsters." He gestured to himself and his raiders. "Very sad. Very unfortunate for you." The Kravith captain took another step forward. This was the part he enjoyed most. Not the actual violence, but the moment before it. The delicious terror in prey eyes when they realized escape was impossible. When they understood their fate, behind him, his crew started pulling at cargo containers, looking for the valuable medical supplies. The sounds of ripping metal and breaking seals filled the bay. But Rask kept his attention on the girl. Such a tiny thing, barely a mouthful for his species. "Please," Amy finally whispered. "Please don't." Rask's smile somehow grew wider. "Don't what, small human? We're just talking, getting to know each other. Unless you want to tell me where crew is hiding, where the good supplies are kept." The girl shook her head frantically. Even terrified, even staring at her own death, she wouldn't betray the others. Rask found that amusing. Loyalty in prey was always entertaining. He reached forward again, Claws extended toward the child's face. A low, rumbling growl echoed from somewhere behind the cargo containers. Rask paused. His crew stopped their looting. Everyone turned toward the sound. "What was that?" one of the raiders asked. The growl came again, deeper this time. Angrier. Something moved in the shadows between the stacked containers. Something low to the ground, but moving with purpose. Then it stepped into the light. The creature was maybe 3 feet long, covered in coarse gray and black fur. It had a flat head, small rounded ears, and a stocky body that looked built for fighting rather than running. Its eyes fixed on Rask with an intensity that made the pirate captain pause. Behind him, his crew started laughing. "What is that?" one of them wheezed. "Some kind of pet. It looks like someone stepped on a cat and made it angry," another added. Rask studied the animal. He had never seen anything like it. The human girl's expression changed from terror to something else. "Oh, Brutus," Amy whispered. The creature positioned itself between the child and the pirates. Its lips pulled back to show surprisingly large teeth for such a small animal. The growl intensified. Rask had faced down battle cruisers, fought hand-to-hand with Thorian war beasts, and survived the killing fields of 3 different war zones. Nothing in his violent career prepared him for the absolute lack of fear in the small creature's eyes. The animal advanced slowly, each step deliberate. Its claws clicked against the metal floor. The sound was too loud for something so small. Too confident. "Captain, shall we deal with it?" one of his crew asked, raising a plasma rifle. "No," Rask said, waving a hand dismissively. "I want to see what this pet thinks it can do." He crouched down again, bringing himself closer to the animal's level. The move was meant to intimidate, to show the creature that even lowering himself, he was still massive compared to it. The Kravith were apex predators on their homeworld. Nothing stood against them. The animal, called Brutus, stopped about 6 feet away. Its body tensed, muscles coiling beneath that thick fur. The growl never stopped, just shifted in pitch and intensity. A warning that Rask completely ignored. "Shoo, little beast," Rask said, making a dismissive gesture. "This does not concern you. Go hide with the small human if you are scared." Behind Brutus, Amy had managed to get to her feet. She leaned against the wall, still shaking but watching intently. Her expression confused Rask. She didn't look hopeful exactly. She looked worried, but not for herself. Rask reached past Brutus toward the girl. His 3 arms gave him excellent reach. The middle one extended while the other 2 prepared to grab the animal if it tried anything foolish. Brutus moved like lightning. The honey badger launched himself at Rask's extended arm, teeth sinking deep into the scaled flesh above the captain's wrist. The pain was immediate and shocking. Rask tried to pull back, but the animal held on with a grip that defied its size. Its teeth found gaps between scales and dug deeper. "Get it off," Rask roared, shaking his arm violently. Brutus didn't let go. Instead, he twisted his body, using his own weight and momentum to tear at the wound. His claws raked across Rask's scales, finding purchase and drawing purple blood. 2 of Rask's crew rushed forward. One tried to grab Brutus by the scruff of his neck. The honey badger released Rask's arm only to whip around and latch onto the raider's hand. The Kravith screamed and stumbled backward, crashing into a cargo container. The second raider swung the butt of his rifle at the animal. Brutus took the hit square in the ribs, a blow that should have broken bones and sent him flying. Instead, he barely flinched. He released the first raider and went straight for the second one's leg, climbing up the alien's body with terrifying speed and purpose. "Shoot it," someone yelled. "Not in here, you idiot. You'll hit the hull." Rask clutched his wounded arm, blood dripping steadily onto the floor. He watched in disbelief as the small earth animal fought 3 of his raiders at once. Every time they thought they had him pinned, Brutus would twist free with impossible flexibility. His thick fur and loose skin meant that grabbing him was nearly useless. Even when they got a grip, he could turn inside his own hide and bite whatever held him. One raider managed to throw Brutus against a wall. The animal hit hard enough to dent the metal. He dropped to the floor, and for a moment, everyone thought it was over. Brutus shook himself once and charged back into the fight. "What is this thing?" a crew member shouted, backing away from the advancing animal. It should be dead. Amy had pressed herself back in her corner, but she was no longer crying. Her eyes were wide as she watched Brutus defend her with absolutely no concern for his own safety. The honey badger fought like something that had forgotten how to feel pain or fear. Ras tried to think clearly through the throbbing in his arm. This was impossible. The creature was tiny compared to his warriors. It had no armor, no weapons beyond teeth and claws that should barely scratch Kravith's scales. Yet it was winning. Another raider went down, clutching a bleeding face where Brutus had gone for the eyes. The honey badger's strategy became clear. He wasn't trying to kill them. He was trying to hurt them so badly they would run away. And it was working. Fall back to the ship, Ras commanded, his pride warring with common sense. Common sense won. Barely. His crew didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled for the exit, weapons forgotten, dignity abandoned. One of them grabbed their wounded companion and half-carried him toward the airlock. Rask stood his ground a moment longer, staring at the small animal that had defeated an entire Kravith raiding party. Brutus stood between him and Amy, chest heaving, blood matting his fur. Some of it was his own. Most of it wasn't. Those dark eyes still showed no fear, only determination. "You are lucky, human child," Rask said quietly. "Very lucky." He backed toward the exit, keeping his eyes on Brutus. The animal tracked his movement, but didn't pursue. Smart. It knew when the threat was leaving soon as Rask cleared the cargo bay doors. He heard them seal behind him. His crew was already at the airlock, desperate to leave. His second-in-command looked at him with wide eyes. "Captain, what was that thing?" "I don't know," Rask admitted, examining his torn arm. "The wounds were deep and would scar. But I intend to find out." The magnetic clamps released with a heavy thunk. Their ship pulled away from the transport vessel with more speed than was strictly necessary. Through the viewport, Ras could see the human ship's lights coming back on as emergency protocols reset. Inside the cargo bay, Brutus finally relaxed. He walked over to Amy on slightly unsteady legs. The girl dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around his thick neck, burying her face in his fur. "Good boy, Brutus," she whispered. "Such a good boy." The honey badger made a soft, chittering sound, somewhere between a purr and a grunt. His stub of a tail wagged slightly. He licked the girl's tear-stained face once before settling down beside her, ready to rest after the fight, but also ready to fight again if needed. Always ready. The medical bay on Rask's ship smelled like disinfectant and shame. The doctor, a four-armed Quillen, worked on the captain's wounds with professional silence. Around them, 3 other raiders sat in various states of injury. Bandages covered bite marks, claw wounds, and one particularly nasty facial injury that would require surgery. "This will scar," the doctor said, applying synthetic skin to Rask's arm. "Whatever bit, you had powerful jaws. The teeth marks go deep." "It was an earth animal," Rask muttered, "called a honey badger." The doctor's antenna twitched with amusement. "An earth creature did this? To a Kravith raiding party? Say nothing," Rask warned, "or I'll show you exactly what a Kravith can do when properly motivated." But word spread anyway. It always did. Pirates talked, crew members gossiped, and within hours, every ship in the sector had heard some version of the story. A Kravith captain, feared across 12 systems, had been driven away by a small mammal protecting a human child. The story reached the galactic information networks within a day. Aboard the transport vessel, Amy's parents held their daughter tight, while the ship's captain filed an official report with the transit authority. They had emerged from the safe room to find Amy safe in the cargo bay, sitting next to a very smug-looking Brutus who was accepting treats from grateful crew members. "The animal saved everyone," Captain Rivera explained over the comm channel. "The pirates would have searched the whole ship if they hadn't retreated. My crew would have been found. Instead, we sustained minimal damage and 0 casualties. And this animal," the transit authority officer said slowly, reviewing his screen. "You list it as an emotional support animal? A honey badger. That's correct. Amy has anxiety during long space flights. Brutus helps keep her calm." There was a long pause on the other end. "Sir, according to the Earth Fauna database, honey badgers are listed as one of the most fearless and aggressive animals on the planet. They're known for attacking creatures 10 times their size. Why would anyone think this is appropriate for emotional support? Rivera looked at Amy, who is currently using Brutus as a pillow while watching a cartoon on her tablet. The honey badger looked utterly peaceful, occasionally licking the girl's hand. He's very sweet with children, Rivera offered weakly. The story reached the Kravith homeworld next. Rast's reputation had been built over 20 years of successful raids. He was the nightmare that cargo haulers warned their crews about. Now he was the punchline of jokes in every spacer bar from here to the core worlds. But something else was happening too. Something the jokers and gossips didn't notice at first, that a research assistant named Tillix was working late at the Galactic Biology Institute when the report crossed his desk. He was Hexarian, a species known for their curiosity and attention to detail. The official incident report included genetic scans taken from the blood samples at the raid site. Tillix pulled up Earth's fauna database and started reading. 2 hours later, he called his supervisor. "Sir, I think we have a problem," Tillix said, his voice shaking slightly. "I've been reviewing the Earth creature involved in the Kravith incident. The honey badger." "What about it?" his supervisor asked tiredly. "It's not classified as a domestic animal, sir. It's listed as wildlife. Dangerous wildlife. The database says humans generally avoid them because of their aggressive nature." "Then why was one on a civilian transport?" "That's just it, sir. I started looking into human-animal relationships. They have entire categories of wildlife they keep as companions. This particular animal was registered as an emotional support creature for a child." His supervisor was quiet for a moment. "Tillix, are you telling me humans give their children aggressive wildlife as comfort animals?" "Not exactly, sir. From what I can understand, this animal bonded with the child. Humans seem to form these bonds across species lines regularly. But here's the concerning part." Tillix pulled up another file. "I cross-referenced Earth predators with galactic classifications. Sir, Earth is rated as a Class 4 death world. The fauna there evolved under extreme competitive pressure. Even their small mammals are more aggressive than most galactic species." "Define more aggressive." "A house cat, sir. Common Earth pet. If scaled up to Kravith size, a house cat would be classified as a Class 3 predator, potentially lethal to most galactic citizens." The supervisor sat up straighter. "And humans keep these in their homes?" "Billions of them, sir. They also domesticated wolves." "Do you know what a wolf is?" "Enlighten me." "Pack-hunting canines that brought down prey much larger than themselves through coordination and persistence. Humans took them and bred them into hundreds of varieties. They keep them in their homes, let them sleep in their beds, trust them with their offspring. They call them dogs." The conversation was recorded and filed in the Institute's database. 3 days later, a similar conversation happened at the Predator Species Council, then at the Merchant Guild's Security Division, then at a dozen other organizations across the galaxy. Everyone was suddenly very interested in what humans considered normal. An independent cargo hauler named Skitch was drinking at a station bar when he overheard two Kravith talking. They were discussing the honey badger incident with a mixture of embarrassment and concern. "I heard Rask is researching Earth animals now," one said. "Obsessed with them, trying to understand what happened." "Waste of time," the other replied. "It was one animal, an exception." Skitch, who had worked with human crews before, spoke up. "Wasn't no exception." The Kravith turned to him. "Explain." "Humans are weird about animals," Skitch said, taking a drink. "I once saw a human crew member cry because they hit a bird with their shuttle. A bird. They felt bad about it for days. But I also seen a human fight off 3 Ventaxian thug barehanded because they kicked a dog. Humans don't make sense when it comes to animals. What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything," Skitch said. "You attacked a human kid in front of her animal companion. Doesn't matter what species. Doesn't matter how small. That animal was part of her pack. And humans take pack very seriously." One of the Kravith frowned. "Pack? Humans aren't pack hunters." Skitch laughed. "Humans are the most pack-minded species I ever met. They just don't limit their pack to their own species." 3 months after the honey badger incident, the pirate networks had changed. Experienced raiders who had worked the trade routes for decades were suddenly avoiding ships with human crew. At first, the other species thought it was paranoia. Then the reports started coming in. The research station on Kepler-7 was studying ocean ecosystems when raiders hit them during a shift change. The attackers were Grellian, a species known for their brutal efficiency. They stormed through the facility, expecting the usual terrified compliance from scientists. They found Dr. Hannah right in the marine biology lab. She was a tall woman with gray hair and absolutely no patience for interruptions during feeding time. Behind her, in a large tank, her research subject waited. An earth octopus named Professor Tentacles. "You need to leave," Hannah said calmly when the Grellians burst in. "Now!" They laughed at her, demanded access to the computer systems, threatened violence. Hannah sighed and pressed the emergency release on the tank. Professor Tentacles was a giant Pacific octopus, 8 feet across and deeply attached to the woman who fed him. He was also capable of squeezing through any gap larger than his beak, had 8 arms covered in powerful suckers, and possessed a biting strength that could crack shells. The Grellians discovered all of this very quickly. 3 weeks later, a merchant vessel carrying human colonists encountered pirates near the outer rim. The raiders were confident. The ship's manifest showed families, personal goods, farming equipment, easy pickings. What the manifest didn't show was that these families were from Montana. Ranch families, and they had brought their livestock guardian dogs. The pirates made it 2 steps into the cargo hold before encountering Bailey, a 140-pound Anatolian shepherd who took his job very seriously. Behind him, 6 more dogs emerged from between the cargo containers. These were animals bred for thousands of years to fight off wolves, bears, and cougars. Pirates didn't impress them. The colonists found the raiders 15 minutes later, trapped in the airlock, refusing to come out until the dogs were locked away. Stories like these multiplied across the galaxy. A Vintaxian gang tried to rob a human restaurant and met the owner's pet cobra. A smuggling operation attempted to raid a human agricultural ship and encountered a very territorial goose that ruled the hydroponics bay. A slaver ring made the mistake of attacking a human circus transport and faced down everything from bears to elephants. But the most influential incident happened on the station at Proxima Trade Hub. The Kravith were holding a council meeting in the secure sector when 5 of them got into an elevator with an elderly human woman and her small dog. The woman was Patricia Walsh, a retired diplomat heading to testify before the Galactic Council about trade agreements. The dog was a golden retriever named Sunny. The Kravith, still sensitive about the honey badger situation, tried to ignore both of them. But one of the younger warriors couldn't help himself. "That is a wolf, yes?" he asked, eyeing Sunny nervously. Patricia looked up from her datapad. Oh, Sunny? No, he's a golden retriever. A type of dog. Dogs are descended from wolves, another Kravith said. It wasn't a question. They had all done their research. Well, yes, about 40,000 years ago, Patricia agreed. But Sunny here is about as dangerous as a pillow. Aren't you, sweetie? Sunny wagged his tail and tried to sniff the nearest Kravith's leg. The warrior jumped back like the dog had tried to bite him. Patricia noticed the reaction. She was old, not blind. She had also read the reports about increased pirate activity around human vessels and the sudden decrease in attacks. The pieces clicked together. "You're afraid of dogs," she said flatly. "We are not afraid," the lead Kravith said, standing straighter. "We are cautious. Earth animals are unpredictable and aggressive." "Sunny," Patricia laughed. "This dog once got his head stuck in a birthday cake and cried until I helped him. He's scared of vacuum cleaners. But he could attack," another warrior insisted. "He has the teeth, the instincts." Patricia studied them with the sharp eyes of someone who had spent 50 years in diplomatic negotiations. "How many of you have actually met a human with their animal companion?" Silence. "You're basing your entire assessment on secondhand stories and biological reports," Patricia said. "You know what else has teeth and instincts? Humans. But you don't avoid us. Humans are civilized," one Kravith offered. "So are our companions," Patricia said. She looked down at Sunny, who was now lying on his back, tongue hanging out, hoping someone would rub his belly. "This animal would die to protect me. Not because he's vicious, but because he loves me." That's what you're actually seeing in all those reports. Not aggression, loyalty. The elevator opened on Patricia's floor. She gathered her things and stood, Sunny jumping up beside her. "Here's something for your reports," she said before leaving. "Humans have been forming bonds with other species since before we invented the wheel. We domesticated wolves not by conquering them, but by befriending them. We turned some of the most efficient predators on our planet into family members. And in return, they chose to stand with us." She paused in the doorway. Every animal that defended a human in all those incidents you're studying, they weren't following orders. They were protecting someone they loved. Think about what that says about humans. We're the species that looked at a wolf and saw a friend. We're the species that turned predators into protectors through nothing but kindness and time. The elevator doors closed. The five Kravith stood in silence for a long moment. "She's right," one finally said. "The humans didn't weaponize these animals. They befriended them." "That's worse," another replied. "Much worse." "Why?" "Because it means they can do it again. With any species. Maybe even with us." That conversation was overheard by a maintenance worker. Within a day, it had spread across the station. Within a week, it reached the Galactic Council's Security Committee. Within a month, Patricia Walsh received a formal invitation to address the council on the subject of human-animal relationships. She accepted, naturally, and she brought Sunny with her. The Galactic Council chamber had hosted representatives from over 300 species since its construction. It had seen trade disputes, territorial arguments, and even 2 declarations of war. But it had never seen anything quite like the reaction to Patricia Walsh walking in with a golden retriever. Half the delegates shifted nervously in their seats. A quarter stood up. 3 representatives from predator species actually left the chamber entirely. Sunny, completely oblivious to the panic he was causing, wagged his tail and looked around with friendly curiosity. "Council members," Patricia began, taking her position at the speaker's platform. "Thank you for inviting me to address your concerns about human relationships with Earth fauna. I understand there have been several incidents that have caused alarm. Alarm is putting it mildly," Councilmember Thrix said. The Ventaxian scales had shifted to a defensive gray color. "Human companions have injured or frightened citizens across multiple systems. We need to understand if humans are deliberately weaponizing Earth creatures." "We're not," Patricia said simply, "though I understand why it might look that way." "Let me ask you something, Councilmember Thrix. Do you have family?" The Ventaxian blinked at the change in direction. "I have spawning siblings, yes." "Would you defend them if they were threatened?" "Of course. Even if the attacker was larger than you? Stronger? Better armed? That would not matter. They are my kin." Patricia smiled and reached down to scratch Sunny's ears. The dog leaned into her hand, eyes closing in contentment. "This is my kin, not by blood but by choice. And he feels the same way about me." She pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared above the platform, showing various Earth animals. Humanity domesticated our first companions roughly 40,000 years ago. Wolves that learned to work with us for mutual benefit. We fed them. They helped us hunt. Over time, the relationship deepened. They became more than tools. They became family. The image changed to show ancient cave paintings of humans and dogs together. We continued this pattern throughout our history. Horses for transportation, cats for pest control, birds for messaging. But something happened along the way. We didn't just use these animals. We loved them. A Kravith delegate stood. It was Rask, his scarred arm visible even from a distance. "Ambassador Walsh, with respect, love does not explain what I experienced. That creature attacked with a ferocity that defied its size." "It absolutely does explain it," Patricia replied. "Tell me, Captain Rask, what were you doing when the honey badger attacked?" Rask hesitated. "I was approaching a human child. Threatening her? I may have been intimidating, yes. And the honey badger's response was to defend her," Patricia said. "Not because it was trained to do so. Not because humans commanded it. But because it loved her and she was in danger. That's what you're all struggling to understand. Our animals don't fight for us because we force them to. They fight because they choose to." She changed the image again. This time it showed Sunny as a puppy playing with a toddler. This dog has never been trained for combat. He's never been taught to attack. But if someone threatened me right now, he would try to protect me. It's not in his training. It's in his heart. A Quillen delegate raised a tentacle. But Ambassador, our research shows that Earth is a death world. Your animals evolved under extreme pressure. They are inherently dangerous compared to most galactic fauna. That's true, Patricia acknowledged. Earth is harsh. Our animals are tough because they had to be. But that's not the whole story. Yes, honey badgers are fearless. Yes, dogs descended from wolves. Yes, cats are efficient hunters. But humans took all that wild strength and shaped it through kindness. She pulled up genetic charts. These charts show the domestication of dogs. Notice what traits we selected for over thousands of years. Not bigger teeth, not stronger muscles. We selected for cooperation, for empathy, for the ability to understand human emotions. We made them gentler, not more dangerous. We just forgot to take away their protective instincts. Because you wanted weapons, Thrick suggested. Because we wanted family, Patricia corrected. And family protects family. That's what's happening in all these incidents. You're not seeing Earth animals acting on aggressive instincts. You're seeing them acting on protective ones. There's a difference. She zoomed in on an image of a border collie herding sheep. This dog is doing what it was bred to do, protect weaker creatures. We found animals with natural protective instincts and enhanced those instincts through breeding and bonding. But it only works because of love. A dog doesn't protect someone it doesn't care about. Rast spoke again. You make it sound noble, but the result is the same. Your animals are dangerous. To threats, yes, Patricia agreed. Captain Rask, you entered that ship with weapons. You threatened a child. In that moment, you were the danger. The honey badger responded accordingly. If you had come in peace, if you had approached that child with kindness, the animal would have behaved completely differently. She gestured to Sunny, who was now lying down, watching a small flying drone that maintained the holographic displays. This dog has met thousands of people. Different species, different cultures. He's never shown aggression to any of them, because none of them threatened his family. A smaller delegate from a herbivore species spoke quietly. Are you saying that humans can control whether these animals attack? I'm saying we influence it through relationship, Patricia said. Sunny trusts my judgment. If I'm calm, he's calm. If I'm threatened, he reacts. That's not control. That's partnership. She closed the holographic display. Here's what the Council needs to understand. Humans left Earth and brought our companions with us. Not as weapons, but as family. Yes, they will defend us. Yes, they're capable of impressive ferocity when protecting those they love. But that same capacity for protection comes from a capacity for love that most species can't comprehend. Patricia looked around the chamber. We are the species that looked at predators and saw potential friends. We are the species that took the most dangerous animals on our planet and invited them into our homes, our lives, our hearts. And they accepted. That's the real thing you should be concerned about. Not that humans have fierce companions, but that we can turn fierce things gentle through nothing but care and time. The chamber was silent. 6 months after Patricia Walsh's address to the Galactic Council, Captain Rass sat in his private quarters surrounded by data files. His crew thought he had gone mad, obsessing over Earth animals and human behavior. Maybe he had, but he needed to understand. The scars on his arm had healed but remained visible, a constant reminder of his failure. Not just the physical defeat, but the philosophical one. He had spent his entire life as a predator, an apex hunter. Then a creature a tenth his size had bested him through sheer determination. He pulled up another file on his screen. This one was about Earth's evolutionary history. The planet had been struck by an asteroid that killed most large species. It had survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions. Life there didn't just survive. It thrived by becoming tougher, more adaptable, more determined. Humans evolved alongside saber-toothed cats, cave bears, and dire wolves. They were never the strongest or fastest. They survived through cooperation, intelligence, and the ability to make allies. They domesticated wolves, Rask muttered, reading the text again. They took their competitors and made them family. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. His second-in-command entered, looking concerned. "Captain, we have a situation. Human transport requesting emergency assistance. Engine failure near the asteroid belt." Rast stood quickly. "Pirates?" "No, sir. Genuine emergency. Their distress call just went out." Rast grabbed his jacket and headed for the bridge. His ship was no longer actively raiding. After the Honey Badger incident, he had quietly transitioned to salvage operations and legitimate shipping protection. It was less exciting but considerably less dangerous. They found the transport drifting near a cluster of asteroids, its engines dark. Rask opened a communication channel. "Transport vessel. This is Captain Rask of the merchant ship Grey Dawn. We received your distress call. Do you require assistance?" There was a pause. Then a familiar voice responded. "This is Captain Rivera of the transport vessel Horizon Runner. We remember you, Captain Rask. Are you here to finish what you started?" Rask closed his eyes briefly. Of course it was the same ship. The universe had a sense of humor. "Captain Rivera, I am no longer in that business. My crew and I are offering legitimate assistance. You need it or not?" Another pause. "Our engine core is failing. We have families aboard. Children." "I remember," Rask said quietly. "Prepare for docking. We'll stabilize your systems and escort you to the nearest station." An hour later, Rask walked through the transport's corridors, his engineering team working on the failing systems. The human crew watched him nervously but said nothing. They needed help more than they needed revenge. He turned a corner and stopped. Amy sat on a bench in the common area, swinging her legs and reading something on a tablet. Beside her, Brutus lay sprawled in a patch of sunlight from the viewport, looking utterly relaxed. The Honey Badger opened one eye as Rask approached, then closed it again, apparently deciding the Kravith wasn't a current threat. "Hello," Amy said, looking up from her tablet. She showed no fear, only curiosity. "Are you fixing our ship?" Rask found his voice. "Yes. We should have you running again soon." "Thank you." Amy smiled at him. A genuine smile, no fear in it. "Brutus remembers you." "I remember him too," Rask said, looking at the animal. In the sunlight, Brutus looked different. Not threatening. Just a medium-sized creature enjoying a nap. "He is very protective of you." "He loves me," Amy said simply. "I love him too. That's how it works." Such a simple explanation. Such a profound truth. Rask crouched down, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm sorry for frightening you before. It was wrong." Amy tilted her head, considering him. "You didn't know about Brutus then. Now you do. So it's okay. That easily forgiven." "Mama says everyone deserves a chance to be better," Amy said. "Are you trying to be better?" Rask looked at his scarred arm. "I'm trying to understand." "That is a start, perhaps." "Brutus thinks you're okay now," Amy offered. "He's a good judge of character." The Honey Badger, as if understanding, made a soft chittering sound, but didn't move from his comfortable position. No aggression, no warning. Just acknowledgement. Rask's communicator beeped. His chief engineer reporting that repairs were complete. He stood slowly. "Your ship is ready. We will escort you to Proxima Station to ensure you arrive safely. Will you stay and have dinner with us?" Amy asked. "Mama always makes extra. I don't think that would be appropriate." "Why not? You helped us. That's what friends do." Friends. The word hit harder than any of Brutus's bites had. Rask realized he was seeing the same thing that had confused his entire species about humans. They didn't hold grudges the way his kind did. They saw potential for change, for growth, for redemption. "Perhaps another time," Rask said gently. "But thank you for the offer. It means more than you know." Amy smiled and returned to her tablet. Brutus went back to sleep, and Rask walked back to his ship, thinking about everything he had learned. 3 weeks later. Rask filed paperwork to formally retire from piracy and establish a security company specializing in protecting civilian transports. His first client was the same shipping company that owned the Horizon Runner. They were hesitant at first, but Captain Rivera vouched for him. "People can change," Rivera told the company representatives. "Even Kravith pirates. Give him a chance." They did it a year after the Honey Badger incident. Amy and her family transferred to a colony ship heading for the outer territories. She was older now, more confident. Brutus was grayer around the muzzle, but no less devoted. They passed through Proxima Station during the journey. Rast happened to be there, meeting with clients. He saw them in the main concourse and approached carefully. Brutus recognized him and wagged his stubby tail. Neugerichten, just memory of someone who had learned better. Captain Rask, Amy said happily. Are you still helping people? I'm trying, Rask said. Every day, I am trying. That's good. Amy hugged Brutus. We're going to a new colony. I'm going to help set up an animal shelter there. For pets that need families. That sounds like important work. Brutus taught me something, Amy said. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. What matters is who you protect and why. That's what makes you strong. Rask nodded slowly. Wisdom from a small human and a fierce badger. The galaxy is learning that lesson too. As they parted ways, Rask watched them go and thought about Patricia Walsh's words to the council. Humans were the species that looked at predators and saw friends. They were the species that turned fierce things gentle through care and time. And maybe, just maybe, they were doing the same thing to the galaxy itself. One